everyone!
Hello!
And welcome to Kirsty and Bryony's Comfort Zone.
I am Kirsty.
I am Bryony, and this is Pyrion. Welcome, Pyrion.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining
Just
us.
fresh from another recording. I'm stepping into this one. I had to cancel another one. I'm in demand.
Oh my god, very
for
busy.
no reason.
Now the question is, are we going to get does that mean you've been doing a podcast for an hour so your podcast skills are honed?
Oh, they're
Or does
honed.
that mean
Are
you're
you
done with
Are you all
podcasts now?
podcasted out?
I'm all warmed up, don't you worry.
Nice. This
Okay,
is going to be a
that's
good one
good.
then.
Not the
Well, I'm not
sloppy
promising
seconds of
that, but-
podcasts.
Oh my gosh.
First things first, how do you feel, it's too late now, but how do you feel talking about dreams? Because some people absolutely hate it, some people love it. Where do you lie on the scale?
Have you guys heard of a comedian called Alexei Sayle?
Yes.
So Alexei
haven't.
Sayle, okay, so he was big in the sort of 70s and 80s. You would see him on The Young Ones occasionally, and he was his whole thing was that he was a very, very shouty, angry, kind of militant comedian. He was very funny, very sort of his time, but a very smart guy. And one of the things that he did a bit about how he hates it when people talk about their dreams as if it's a fascinating story. Like if you have a very brief summary of a dream where you're like, I had the craziest dream where so-and-so, you're like, oh gosh, that is weird. But when people are describing it to you as if they're telling you their life story, it's like, and then I went up into a balloon, but the balloon was green. It's just like, of course this is crazy and weird. It's a dream. That's the point. It's not an interesting story if it's like, can you believe that? It's like, yes, I can believe all these crazy things happen because you were dreaming. That's how dreams work. So I think if someone's really relaying a lengthy, boring dream to you in great detail, it's just dull, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love the idea that you can analyze people's dreams and divine some mystical secret about what they're really about, because it's like astrology or whatever, it's like all of that kind of stuff, and it just makes me think of people that believe in ley lines and things like that. No offense if either of you two are big ley line fans.
Oh, I love ley lines.
Big fan.
I can't get enough of them.
Love
Can't
those
move for ley
lines.
lines.
But yeah, so it falls into that category of palm reading and all that kind of crap, mood rings and just gibberish. So I think it's funny, but it's not something I take very seriously.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's sort of the thing that we've been exploring a lot. We've done 50 odd episodes now, and it always seems to come down to, the dream book says that it means this, but honestly, you were just watching wrestling before bed, so you dreamt about wrestlers.
Exactly.
That's just how it goes.
It's just so subjective, and I guess in that way that it's like when you're reading those horoscopes and they're just like, you will have a good day or a bad day, and you're like, I did have a good day. Oh my god, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive reinforcement or whatever. I can't remember what the phrase is, but essentially someone tells you something is the case, and you start to look. It's like numerology.
Yeah.
People will say, oh, the number 13, and then you start seeing it everywhere. Dunning-Kruger or something, I don't know. Anyway, there's some clever term for it. I probably used all the wrong ones. But with dreams, I think it's interesting because it is fascinating that they exist at all, that our brains are not switched off. I like to imagine that your brain is just bored, sitting up there, just bored out of its mind. Or this is what's happening behind our conscious brain all the time. There's just no way to turn it off. It's just a background. Because our brains obviously have to be active when we sleep. We don't completely switch off because we need to be awake to listen for creeping predators and assassins or whatever. So your brain is still active, and it's either that this is there to stop us just going mad from boredom, or this is always there in the back of our minds, and we only tune into it when we're asleep. I don't know which it is. But they are interesting that they exist. As a phenomena, I find them fascinating. And sometimes, have you guys ever been inspired by something you've dreamt about?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've asked this.
D&D dreams, don't you?
Whenever we have people on who do a lot of creative stuff like D&D or art, animation, I'm always like, have you had a dream that's inspired you? Have you had a dream that's inspired you? Because I find that a lot. If I really got something on my mind, to do with the D&D storyline, or especially when I was DMing, I'd be like, oh, that's such a good idea. I gotta write that down. I gotta use that. So it's good. It's like you're just doing homework while you're asleep. You know,
I feel like I've definitely been inspired by dreams. Like literally taking them almost wholesale. Like in the Bodega book, one of the stories was literally a dream that I had, and I sort of fleshed it out and added bits so it worked as a story. But it was absolutely inspired by a dream I had, and it was like sometimes that I think I could never have thought of that. You know what I mean? I think I never would have sat there and come up with that. But so I think they're really, really interesting how often they do open up some creative pathway in your brain. And if you can use it in a clever way, not just literally copy pasting it, but if you can adapt it, almost like adapting, this dream was adapted for this format, you know, it's sort of, I think it's great fun.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess it is like, I mean, like you say, when your brain is thinking of things throughout the day, you've probably got like so many other distractions, but this is just like your brain's free reign time to just explore places and just be uninterrupted, I guess. So
yeah, there's nothing else getting in the way. Like your conscious brain is obviously handling so much information that it must just take up a ridiculous amount of the attention of your brain. But once your conscious brain is like, well, we're checking out for the day, over to you, crazy subconscious. The subconscious is like claps its hands, rubs them together. Here we go. I still don't understand nightmares, though. In all honesty, I don't know what the benefit of those is.
Oh God, yeah. Like we have so many people come on and like talk about their nightmares, and people often say like, I only have nightmares, and it's just so bizarre. Like, why does your brain do that to you?
Yeah,
it is like, I think it's been helpful before. Like, we started doing this podcast sort of as a joke, and then I have found that over the more we started looking into dreams, the more it does give you like a little idea as to what you're feeling that you might not have really thought about before. Because there's times when I've like just like brought a dream on the podcast and been like, this was just a bit goofy and weird. And then I've looked it up in the book and it's been like, well, this is often related to this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am really stressed about this thing.
Right, yeah.
But sometimes you're like, why couldn't my brain just have a very on the nose dream that says like, this bothers you, instead of being like, oh, but the snake was inside the cushion. What does that mean? You're like, just tell me, please.
Sometimes it's hard as well because like people, like you say, they link it to like tarot and palm reading and stuff. And it's hard to say, but like when we're saying like, oh, this dream typically like means this, it's not that we're saying, you know, oh, this is definitely what it means, but it is that vague element, like with tarot reading, where it's like, oh, this might be something that's on your mind. And whoever we're talking to, a lot of the time, they're like, you know, I have been thinking about this recently and I am kind of stressed about it. So it's kind of, it's not like you're being told that you're thinking about this particular thing, but more that it makes you think about what you're worried about or what's on your mind. And it's a really good way to sort of, I don't know, just look into your own brain and think, oh, I have been worried about this. I have been thinking about this.
Sort of encouraged self
awareness, like introspection.
Introspective thoughts. So I mean, look, with all of this stuff, if it makes people more comfortable, if it's some kind of therapy for them, go nuts. Like I know people who are very superstitious, they're super into crystals and things, but they seem happy. So I'm like, if this is making you happy, it's completely harmless, analyzing your dreams. I would never criticize someone, but I would maybe have a laugh about it privately, but it's not something that I think you can really judge people. Well, you know.
Well, we were saying a few episodes ago, we were like, maybe we don't take this far enough, because I was reading about Troy, and the whole thing starts because someone has a dream and they're like, this means that if you don't kill your son, Troy will burn, and all of this stuff. We were like, maybe we don't go far enough with our dream. And like we should be saying, like, this means if you don't sell all your stocks and shares right now, it's gonna crash.
God. I have, I'd say the most frequent nightmare that I have is that Mrs. F is leaving me. Like that's the most common one. Well, no, it's horrible because I wake up and I'm in a foul mood and I'm like, you cheating bitch, you left me for that bodybuilder. I'm like, you know when you wake up from a bad dream and you're in a bad mood all day? It's like in your brain, it's like, this actually happened. It's like, well, hang on, why were we in space then? That doesn't make any sense. But it's weird. But yeah, I'd say that's a very common one. My actually last night, it might have been the night before, I was up here working and I just finished and I was watching some YouTube. And my youngest comes up, it's about 12:30 at night, looking terrible. And I was like, she's had a bad dream. And she's like, I had a nightmare. She's 11. there was a man under her bed. That was what her dream was, that there was like a strange man under her bed. That was her nightmare. Very raw, and she was really scared and like trembling and stuff. And we've all been there with nightmares that are just horrific, and you wake up in a cold sweat, panicked. It takes a long time, and it stays with you. It's really, really traumatizing. So I think in some ways that might be underlying stress that you're not dealing with, manifesting itself. Your brain is just so scared about something that it manifests it in this way because it doesn't know, it can't really put into words or thoughts what is really troubling you. But so you're right. Sometimes the idea you're probably worried about your health, you think, I have been worried about my health or whatever it is. I think that's interesting. So maybe there is some therapeutic side to it.
I think one of the most common ones we get when we've asked someone to be on the podcast and then they'll bring on a dream. They'll be like, I finally had a dream. And it'll be something that's like, so I had a dream that I was in like a safe space, but things were trying to get in. And we're like, that's us. This is literally you worrying about us getting into your head.
Oh,
we're
funny.
the bad guys.
We've had people as well that have like, I had a dream that I had a dream and I had to write it down. And I was like, oh no.
Wow, they're really worried about being on this podcast.
Yeah.
Terrified.
Can't think
Very
why.
intimidating.
I think the nightmare thing, by the way, is because you often remember the last dream you had, right? You don't remember the ones you've had during your deep sleep. It's only if you've been woken up. So if it's the last dream you had, like if you were dreaming just before you woke up, you'll remember that one. And if with a nightmare, it tends to wake you up if it's a really bad one.
Yeah.
So I think it's more fresh in your mind because obviously your brain just goes, well, we don't need any of this. Just dumps most of it off.
Yeah.
But when you wake up, it's still there in your short-term memory, I guess. So then you sort of imprint it on your brain. Yeah. Weird. Right. Do you want to hear about a dream I had the other day?
Yes.
Yes. Tell
definitely.
us. The book is ready.
I've got two for you. I want to do this one first. This is interesting. I was with my youngest, and it was a post-apocalyptic sort of UK. And we're trying to find somewhere to eat. For some reason, there are still restaurants in the post-apocalypse. But they're more like a sort of, you know, when you walk into a Chinese takeaway and it's just the desk and the menu is just like a sort of printed out, laminated thing and you order from that. It's that kind of vibe. It's very bare. There's no furniture. It's kind of dirty. And there's a lady behind the counter and all they sell is rat legs.
Oh my God.
And in order to let you know what kind of rat leg you're getting, they have these little varnished rat legs with all the that are like different colored and different shapes, and each of them has like a little. They're on a card, and next to it shows what kind of seasoning that is. So we went for the upside down seasoning rat leg, and I was like, I think she'll like that. And I was like picking up these little rat legs and looking at them and trying to judge it. And she says to me, "Daddy, I'd rather have cod." And I said to the guy behind the counter, "What's the cod like?" He goes, "Well, obviously it's not cod." And I was like, "Well, obviously." I said, "What is it?" And he was like, "Oh, you don't want to know, but it's kind of approximate to the texture of cod." And then I was like, "What the hell could it be if it's not cod, but it's kind of like cod?" And then I woke up. So, book, tell us what it means.
Take it away, Brady.
Okay, I'm going to look up, I guess, rat?
We must have looked at rat before. I have a lot of dreams about rats. Not rat legs, but...
It's not what you ever want it to be, is it? Because you obviously love rats very much, whereas a lot of the time the symbology of them is like...
Very negative.
For instance.
Yeah, it's usually very negative in the book, yeah.
So I don't have a problem with rats at all. I've never been afraid of them or like, oh my God, there's a rat, we got to do something, other than, shit, we don't want them coming in the house and everything like that. But I'm certainly not rat phobic or anything like that. I would say that the rat legs was not, although it was the only thing I can remember is holding these little varnished rat legs and wondering about what they would taste like. The main thing was trying to feed my daughter in a post-apocalyptic scenario. So obviously it was a genuine fear on my part that she was going to go hungry.
Yeah.
So I think that was the big thing for me, was that was the main focus of the dream. The rat leg was just, you know, a part of the story, I guess. So if we wanted to look at something other than rats, what does it mean if I'm worried my child is going to go hungry? That's very specific.
Well, interestingly, I've just looked at the rat section and it says the rat signifies the diseased and devious part of the dreamer or his situation. The dreamer may be experiencing disloyalty from a friend or colleague.
Oh.
Experiencing
Lewis,
disloyalty?
what have you done?
Bloody Lewis, I knew it.
Oh.
Confusingly, it says, see also vermin. And I looked up vermin and it says, see animals. And I'm like, that's the section you just sent me from.
Very good book. A lot of the time, these books are written by AI, I'm sure of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the year on this book? Because it's probably way before AI was
Oh,
even a
yeah, I
thing.
can imagine.
2004.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Barely had the internet back then. It was
Oh no, I found vermin.
Oh?
It says, in dreams, vermin may represent the enforced contemplation of something that is unnecessary or that has invaded one's space.
That's my daughter. It's about my regrets of having children, I suppose.
Oh, no.
I have no regrets about having my kids. None at all. So I don't know. The dream book is way off on that one.
I wonder if apocalypse is in here. Is that too big a
there's
concept for
Gotta
the book
be
to deal with?
something like that in there. I have a question while Bridie's looking for that, though. What the heck is upside down seasoning?
I don't know. I don't know. I really want to know. It was like upside
is it
down
when,
seasoning.
You know when chefs do that thing where they hold the food and then they throw the spice in the air? Is it that they throw it from underneath instead of dropping it on top?
The rat legs are all different coloured based on how they'd been cooked and what they were seasoned with. So the upside down seasoning was a very dark leg. The other ones were quite a light brown leg. So I don't know what the upside down seasoning was. My instinct was that it must have involved some very serious soy sauce or something that stained the rat leg, I suppose. But upside down seasoning, I remember thinking, gosh, I wonder what that's like. I'm holding this fucking rat leg and thinking, what is this going to taste like? I'm just thinking, I'm going to have to feed this to her. Is she going to eat this? And then she wants I'll have the cod, like we're in a chip shop.
They seem to have put a lot of thought into these rat legs. They're like a little gourmet establishment.
But it's the way, I distinctly remember I was leaning on the counter, really, really pondering it, and the lady behind the counter is really looking at me and helping me as best she can. With that one, the way we prepare the rat leg is, it's like you just have a rat. You just catch a rat and eat it if it's the apocalypse. You're not going to go into the rat leg restaurant, which also does cod, and decide on which seasoning you want. I mean,
Cod,
what is that?
question mark.
Yeah, the question mark cod. Yeah, the cod brackets don't ask.
I looked up child, as that was a main part. And it says, dreaming of a child gives us access to our own inner child. We have parts of ourselves which are still childlike and curious. When we are able to get in touch with that side of ourselves, we give ourselves permission to clarify a potential for wholeness, which we may not have previously recognized.
Jesus.
What does that even mean?
You have the potential to try rat, I guess.
Yeah, takes me back to my younger days as a rat catcher and eater, I suppose. Yeah, so strange. It's interesting because I don't dream. I do dream about my kids quite often, but there's very rarely other kids in the dream.
Right.
But before I had kids, I didn't remember children ever featuring. Once I had my daughters, obviously I dreamt about them a lot. I'm worried, mainly very worried dreams about them. Mm-hmm. But before each of them were born, when Mrs. F was pregnant, I had very distinct dreams about me with a daughter being just absolutely over the moon and happy. They were some of the happiest dreams I could ever remember. And both times I dreamt I was going to have a daughter before we did. And I was just 100% convinced. My mind was like, you are absolutely going to have another daughter. I was like, fantastic. And I was just so happy. The dream, I was so happy. The sad thing is, I did a couple of years ago, after we decided we weren't going to have any more kids, I did have a dream where I had a son, like a third child, and it was a son.
Oh my gosh.
And I was very, very happy, and I woke up with deep regret that we hadn't. But then also, I know people who have had a third child in their 40s, and it's very hard work, so I'm very glad I didn't. Yeah, it's weird.
Was this dream before or after your daughter came in having the nightmare?
Oh, this was before. This was before.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh God, here's a weird one. All right, let's change that. The rat ones don't run its course. This is crazy. This was about a week ago, just before I went to Stockholm. Me and Mrs. F woke up the next morning, and I said to her, I had the craziest dream that I was driving downhill, and her eyes went wide. She's like, I had the same dream that I was in a car going downhill
my
and you were
God.
driving. And we both dreamt that we were driving downhill. In her version of the dream, we were just happily driving downhill. And there was just like a really boring detail of the dream. We were just driving along, like chatting. In my version of the dream, I'm going way too fast down this hill. Like I'm absolutely hammering it down this hill. And for some reason, it's this real mess of like motorway. And it comes up at the end of this hill, there's a huge right turn. And as you're turning right, you look down, there's just a huge valley going down like as far as you can see. And I'm coming around the corner, I realize I'm not going to be able to make the turn and stop in time. And there's a truck to my right, so I can't swerve. So instead, I do this sick Tokyo drift and drift the car all the way around the corner. And Mrs. F is next to me, and she's just going, ooh, like screaming her head off. And I'm just like holding on to this turn, like thinking, oh, I'm going to make it. And we made it. And I was like, what the hell? So in her version of the dream, a perfectly normal car ride. It happened to involve going downhill. But in mine, I almost killed us, but I managed to get us out of it by Tokyo drifting. It was so weird.
That's amazing.
But we hadn't driven anywhere in ages. It was so weird. And we weren't planning to. So. But for us both to dream about driving downhill.
Yeah.
I love like that weird, undiscovered sort of element to dreams. Like I'm sure me and Bryony, we've had the same dream before. I'm sure that like I've messaged and been like, I have a dream about this, and you were like, what the heck? I had the same dream.
Yeah.
And then like there are people like Kat Strike, you know Kat. She's a twin, and they will have like really similar dreams, or they'll like dream that the other one is like hurt or in pain, and they'll wake up and message them, and it turns out they're having an awful day and stuff like that. There's just it's like you kind of think, you know, this is a bit wild. It probably isn't a thing, but it's very cool to think like, oh, maybe there's something there, you know?
Yeah.
Some sort of weird like mystical element
some
to it.
Quantum element. They've got some particles of their brain are entangled.
Exactly.
And so one dream affects the other. God, that is weird, yeah. It's funny because I know a twin and him and his brother have none of that. Yeah. They're very, very similar. Like, they really are pretty much the same person, but there's no sort of twin-like empathy.
Yeah.
But it is funny. I mean, like with all of these things, you can read into random events.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been married to Mrs. F for over 20 years. This is the first time this has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you could say, oh yeah, that happens. It's like, yeah, it does. Once in every 25 years, we have the same or similar dream.
Yeah, it's like monkeys with a typewriter, you know?
Exactly.
I guess it's also like, I think when you know someone very well, you tend to start making these same like mental leaps during things. Like there's been times that something has happened on TV that's triggered a thought in my mind about something completely sort of related to me, but on paper unrelated. And I'll turn to Alex and be like, oh, did you? And he'll be like, oh, yeah, no, I did that. And it's like we've both made that same leap that we know what the other one's thinking when they turn and say something with no context sort of thing. So I guess maybe there was just something that triggered
a
both
memory
of you to
or something.
have this
Yeah.
downhill dream. Just in very different vibes.
Yeah.
It's because our marriage is going downhill. That's it.
Oh no.
And fast.
Well,
In my
up.
dream, fast.
I looked up to dream that we are going downhill would indicate we are feeling as if circumstances are pushing us in a certain direction. We may be moving from a level of attainment and now feel that we are not so much in control of our own abilities.
God, that's because my Twitch subs are down. I was away for 3 weeks. That's what it is. I went away for 3 weeks. Dreaming about that. I did dream, actually, another silly, really short one I had. I dreamt that I woke up and came in and I had 0 Twitch subs and everybody had left the Discord. I couldn't find out from anyone what it was that I'd done that made them all leave. But they were all like, you know. I was like, what? I didn't do anything. I couldn't get anything out of anybody. I was just cancelled and I could not find any information about why. It was really bad.
This is a really big thing amongst Twitch streamers. Like all of us have these weird anxiety dreams about like streaming, and like I've dreamt that my Twitch has been hacked and people are streaming like horrible stuff, and I'm calling my mods like, shut the stream down. They're like, we can't do that. Only you could do that. I'm like, no.
I'll always dream that I'm like on the loo and I suddenly realise that I'm live on Twitch.
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey everyone, how's it going?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Literally. God, the classic one that they never let me forget was I dreamt that I was streaming from bed. I was just asleep, and I woke up and was like, "Thank you for the gift subs." I'm like, oh God, this is getting too much.
I think it's because when we're streaming, you're on camera for so long, you're sort of caught up in it. And I know that when I'm streaming, I've become very aware that I'm on camera for hours and hours and hours with people looking. And if I do something stupid or say something stupid, it's going to get clipped. So it's like being under the microscope all the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of obviously that does lead to background anxiety for a lot of people. You just learn to sort of deal with it. And it's either something that doesn't bother you or it does. But even if it doesn't bother you, it's still there. It's still like a pressure in the back of your mind. So yeah, I think it's natural that we'd all have dreams about that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I feel bad for people who can never remember their dreams. Or I think that they're so interesting because they can be so funny and kind of it just gives you a really interesting view into your brain. And some of them are just so bonkers. You think, like I said, like you can really use some dreams for creative sort of purposes. I did have one. This was the longer dream I was telling you guys about. This was I don't know if you guys do this. I sometimes have dreams where I'm not the main character in the dream.
Yes.
You ever have that?
Yeah.
It's like you're watching a movie almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I it's an entire film almost. It feels like it's playing out in my brain, like an entire film, and I'm just chilling. Like I don't feature at all. No one I know is in it. It's like my brain is constructed in an episode of a TV show for me to watch. And I guess we watch so much media these days. It's only natural that your brain would be able to reconstruct that in your imagination. So this is about a guy who's on a spaceship, and it's really cramped and awful conditions. And all the staircases are like jammed, and everybody's kind of really having to bustle past each other. And they work on this huge pile of recycled rubbish, and they have to sort the good reusable stuff from the lousy stuff, put it on a conveyor belt, but they don't know where it goes. And there are these viewports that they can look out, and the star field is out there, and it barely seems to move. And they realize that they're just stuck in this sort of pretty crappy situation on a spaceship. And his room is like just a coffin style like hotel room, like in the ones they have in Japan. Every morning he gets out and everything in there, it gets sealed off and washed. And he just leads this miserable life. And then one day there's an earthquake or something. They feel the ship moving and a crack appears in the spaceship, and he goes out. And what he thought was space is actually just a big open area that's sort of got this screen that projects stars on. And there's a tiny ladder there, and he climbs up the ladder, and he comes out into this sort of beautiful meadow, and there's a house there. And he can't believe he's seeing like birds and insects and everything for the first time. Goes to the house, and there's a really rich guy there who tells him that, this guy basically, the spaceship is like an underground factory, and you just have to work down there, and it's a shame you found out about it, but you're going to have to go back. And he tries to make a break for it. They round him up, put him back down there, seal it all up. And now he's stuck down there and no one believes him that they're actually in prison. That was the dream.
Oh my God. That's so cool.
A space Truman Show.
Right.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, there are two pieces of media that are very similar to that. There's one which is currently a TV show called Silo, which has this exact thing where people are at the bottom of this big sort of tunnel thing. They don't know what it is. It's like this big underground silo. And they recycle rubbish. There are people down there doing exactly that job. And there was something else. Is it Bridge to Terabithia or something like that? It's called. It's about like, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I've heard of Bridge to Terabithia. I've never seen it. It reminded me as well, though, of Severance. There were a lot of plot points in Severance that were a lot like that. I don't know if you've ever seen Severance. But
Yeah. No, I love that show.
Yeah. When Severance came out, actually, we had a couple of guests that had dreams about it as well. It's just one of those things. I think like it's a really good plot beat, like that kind of situation that people really seem to cling to.
Makes you think.
Oh, this is nothing like Bridge to Terabithia. I must be thinking of something else. Sorry, Bridge to Terabithia fans. I've misquoted your film. It was something else. But yeah, so it was weird because I have definitely seen stuff like that in the media since. And it makes me wonder a lot of the time, if you look at new media that comes out with new ideas, it's obviously heavily influenced by things that are happening in the real world. And if those influences will be happening to an awful lot of people, and some of them will be writers who will put that into stories and books and films and stuff. You may have had similar ideas, but you couldn't formulate them in the way that those guys did. So my idea about this underground spaceship or whatever, where they're recycling rubbish, is really not that dissimilar to the Silo series, or the books I think were called Wall. And this was years ago. I'd never read Wall, never heard of it. The TV show wasn't out. But obviously, whatever influenced that dream is a similar influence to whatever influenced that guy to write that book. So I think a lot of the time we're sort of culturally sort of influenced in similar ways. And some people turn it into stories or songs or whatever. And you think, I've always wondered that as well. So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's like stuff like The Matrix, like this the whole idea of just being in a world that maybe isn't quite real. It's just, I don't know, it's just something that's really prevalent in a lot of media, and it's really interesting. That sounds so cool though. Like I was like properly imagining along with that dream. I would watch that. I would totally watch that TV show.
I was like, damn, this would be pretty funky as a TV show. But to me, I think that the thing is, when you have a dream, it's obviously so intense because you're not just feeling images that you see on the screen and sort of thinking of them the way you do with a TV show. You're feeling emotions, and they're so real that it's like much more empathy than you could get from a book or a TV show, because it's pure imagination. There's no translation from page to screen or page and screen to your brain. It's just raw input. So when you have these very intense dreams, I think the reason I remember them is the emotions in them are so pure and so real that when the character comes above ground for the first time and sees all this beautiful nature and everything, I can absolutely remember that feeling, even though it wasn't real and it wasn't even me in the dream. It's like the emotion that you feel in that dream is so pure. So I've always thought the dreams are almost entirely just emotional. There's very little logic to them. It's like our pure emotional side. So maybe people who don't dream much are just robots.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that reminds me of the dream that poor Rythian had. He had this dream where he like met the love of his life and they got married, and it felt like they had a life together, and then he woke up and was like, this person doesn't exist, and none of that happened. And he was so sad for like the whole day, because he was like, he felt like he had genuinely lost this person that had spent years with.
That's absolutely tragic. There's an episode of Star Trek Next Generation like that.
Is there?
Yeah, there is. I can't remember the name of it. Someone will know. Picard is this probe turns up, and of course, as with all probes the Enterprise, and Picard passes out, and the crew is like, "Oh my god, what's happened to the captain?" And there's sort of two stories. There's him up on the bridge, passed out, and then he lives an entire lifetime down on the surface of this planet, and he gets married, he has kids, and in the background of this story of him on the planet is the sort of environment of the planet is failing. I think the sun is going to wipe them out, and they're trying to figure out a way off, and they can't get off the planet. They're stuck there, and they're going to die. And they realize that all their history and all their music and everything is going to die with them. And the resolution is that at the end, characters who have been a part of his life all along but have died turn up again. And he's like, "How are you here?" And they explain to him that the probe had this vision contained within it to remind some future intelligence of that these people existed, to tell their story. So he lived his life among them, completely changed him. And I thought that is so incredible. But he wakes up back on the bridge, and they were like, "Captain, are you all right?" He's like, "How long have I been gone?" They were like, "Well, about 20 minutes. So it's just like a dream.
Yeah.
It just zapped into his mind.
I just quickly DM'd a friend of mine who is a really big Trekkie, and he said the episode is called Inner Light.
The Inner Light, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, it's widely regarded as one of the best episodes. I think as a pure sci-fi idea, I love it. The idea that the way that they preserve their people is in the minds of whoever finds the ruins of this civilization. I just love that so much.
Yeah.
And explains everything about them. Like, he now knows who they are, who they were, what happened, but not just as a factual pages on a book. He's felt it, and he knows who they were. And I think that was just magic. I loved it.
Out of interest, like when you have your dreams normally, are you in first person or third person?
Yes, I was going to ask this.
So it can vary, but more often than not, it's third person. More often than not, I'm watching. I feel like I'm over my shoulder a lot of the time, and
Yeah.
there will definitely. I think the scarier ones will tend to be first person. But here's the weirdest thing about all my dreams. This might make you laugh, but bear with me. I always have hair in my dreams.
Oh.
I know. My residual self-image, just like the Matrix, the way Neo has this residual self-image, in my dreams, I still have hair. So who I am is so deeply formed in my subconscious that I guess it must have been formed before I went bald. I'm never bald in my dreams.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird. So I would suggest I have to be in most of them third person, but like the driving one was first person. Because, you know, the way I see it, you don't do third-person driving games apart from GTA. Serious driving games are first-person, like those F1 games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the one where it dips in between, sort of like a shot from my perspective, and then I'll be watching myself do stuff. I think my dreams are very heavily influenced by film and TV.
Yeah,
See,
me
it's
too. I find that
interesting.
mine are always third person as well. Sorry, Brownie.
Yeah.
That's to say, because like I think yours are first person a lot of the time, aren't they, Brownie?
Mine are usually first person, yeah. But we've looked into stuff before about just like dreaming over the ages, and there's times like I guess back when you had early cinema, like a lot of people used to dream in black and white because I guess that's how they consumed their stories, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting that you say about, you know, games you play influencing it, because I think that is like that sort of media is very influential on what we see as like how a story is told, sort of thing.
I mean, if you think about it, when you're watching TV, I mean, human vision is very, very like tunnel-like. Like our peripheral vision is most. We talk about our peripheral vision, we think of it as just being like the extremes left and right, but it's really we're focusing on one tiny area. And if you look at a screen, most of what you're looking at is just like a haze. You know it's there, and you don't really notice it. But when you're watching TV, it's just the right size. They're like, you know, there's a right distance to have a television and a wrong distance. If it's the right distance, it just fits into your entire sort of eye span, if you like, the span of your vision. Mm-hmm. So I feel like when that's happening, your brain is really only receiving that. It's not seeing that it's on a screen. So you become completely involved in that scene. Just think what effect that must have on your mind, just being fed these incredible images. Your brain's just soaking it up. There's these frames and this amazing stuff, and the editing, the constant shifting from one person to the next. Your brain's just like absorbing this stuff. It must have an enormous impact. I wonder what dreams were like before we had any kind of moving pictures, whether people did dream in third person or anything like that. I wonder.
Yeah,
that would be a really interesting thing to look into, to be honest. Like we've talked about dreams in the past before, and like we've said, like, you know, back in the day, like a lot of the time they would have like a lot of religious connotations, and people would be like, "Oh, this
the devil is talking to you. You're a witch."
Yeah. Dreaming in color, you must be a witch.
But they see in color, like, so their dreams would presumably still be in color. I wonder if they had black and white dreams once movies came out because they were so influenced by TV. But I'm sure they must have still had color dreams.
Yeah, they must have.
They must have.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like the thing is, like, you find that a lot of but there aren't really many records of stuff like that. I don't think. Like people don't really tend to write it down or talk about it so much. It's hard to find a lot of information about it.
I mean, there's some things like I remember we looked into things that were influenced by dreams, and things like Frankenstein was written from a dream, and like Einstein's theory that came to him in a dream and stuff like that. And I guess it's things like, if I had had one of those dreams, I think he had a dream that he was like going downhill in a bathtub or something, and he was like, oh, this must mean that, whereas I would have had that dream and been like, huh, weird, okay, anyway.
Going downhill again, very interesting.
Well, he was worried about his marriage, you know. He
did a Tokyo Drift turn in the bathtub right at the bottom.
He invented the Tokyo Drift. Nobody knows.
Oh my god.
Just didn't have a name for it at the time. It reminded me actually how like the whole focusing thing, this is something of a tangent, but I remember when I first watched the new, it's old now, but like the new Mad Max film, and what
Fury
that film,
Road.
what that film did differently to like all other action films I'd ever seen is that the focal point is always the center of the screen, and you absorb it so much better. And when I watch like other action films, other things like Bourne or Bond, and that you're just having to like look around all the time, and it's so like so ineffectual when you're watching Mad Max. You can honestly, like, I remember just in the opening scene of that film just being like, I've forgotten to breathe because I'm so absorbed by just having to stare straight at the center of the screen the entire time. It's so powerfully done.
I love that film. I love that film so much. When they said they were making a new one, I was really worried, because it's like the guy making them hasn't really done a Mad Max film since like the 80s. How good is this going to be? And I was just blown away by the detail. So it was so much world building that in fact you couldn't really absorb all of it. The first time I saw it, it's taken multiple viewings to really notice all the details and infer from the bare dialogue, because they don't talk about it. This is the best thing about it, I think. They never talk about stuff as if this is new to them. This is just the way it is. They just call him, oh, my blood bag. And you're like, blood bag? And you have to read into that, but they're not going to explain what it is. Or, you know, what they talk about, the war boys and why they've got all these growths on them. You just have to infer all those things. And the mother's milk and all this stuff. It's all, they'll just use it like once or twice. And then you've built this entire world just out of this scant dialogue. I just thought it was incredible. And the number of practical effects in that film as well. There's no CGI that sucks you out of the moment. You're always, and like you said, it's like a comic book. Every moment is right there, huge in your eye. It's really just something else. They did that in black and white. They released that film in black and white as well. Black and chrome.
Oh,
Was what they described it as, because it's although I think the color in that film is stunning, and just beautiful. The way these puffs of color in this otherwise sort of barren landscape are really, really striking. In black and chrome, it looks just as good. It's such a visceral film. I loved it.
It's been such a long time since I've seen it. I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I like you say, it takes multiple like watches, and it's been so long I can't really remember a lot of it. I need to watch it again. Yeah, I have to. I'll put it on my list.
It's just so, like, I had literally never thought about how good it would be to have just a constant central focus in a film before, because I'm always like, oh, I like, you know, these big grand shots and you're looking around, whereas that I was just like, I'm scared to blink because I will miss something of this film. It's so good.
I think, I mean, if you look at example for me, and some people might consider this heresy, of a bad film that doesn't do that at all, would be the George Lucas sort of the prequel trilogy. If you look at that, there are multiple scenes where the entire screen is filled with action, to the point where you can't actually see any of it. It's just it's like looking at a swarm of bees and trying to pick one out. It's impossible. And whereas if you look at a single bee, that's interesting. But if you look at 1,000 bees at a distance, you just think, it's just a swarm of bees. Like, I can't, there's the individuality of it is lost.
Yeah, I suppose that goes back to the whole like practical effects versus like CGI sort of thing, because a lot of the prequels were just filmed in front of a green screen, weren't they?
Exactly.
So I guess they've got the actor there, and they're just like, right, we need to fill this up with something. Just throw in a few hundred droids.
Yeah, just wave a lightsaber around. We'll fill in the rest. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you think that in Lord of the Rings, the final battle sequences I thought were very grand and had that sort of epic scale, but I never felt lost about where we were in the battle. I always felt like I knew what I was focusing on, and I think they did a very good job of giving you a focal point, even if there was a lot going on. With Mad Max, it was like very barren other than the focal point, whereas with Lord of the Rings, I felt it was very busy, but you still knew where to look.
Yeah, you knew exactly where to go.
Lord of the Rings
I totally
is so
agree.
well done.
It is so well done. We recently, I think it was on Boxing Day last year, we watched through all of Lord of the Rings extended, and then we were like, right, let's watch all of The Hobbit extended.
Oh no!
And it was like, this is such a bad idea. And wow, the shift between the two, like the battle scenes, it's just night and day.
Oh, it is.
So
Honestly,
different.
there is something
Yeah.
to be said for directors having to work to a budget. And I think Peter Jackson, with limitations, very good. Peter Jackson given free reign, not so good. I think
I mean,
he
I know that
really
there's-
needs
Yeah.
holding in.
But there is a big story behind The Hobbit. I think there's a YouTube series on it that you can watch. I would recommend it because it's not just that they said, Peter, do whatever you want. It was very different from that. And I think it was like a nightmare making the trilogy for him. So that there's a lot more to the story. Because I don't think anyone who made the Lord of the Rings trilogy as good as they did could then go and make such a dog shit trilogy as The Hobbit. Like this is not just Peter Jackson. Oh, he didn't have any strings on him holding him back. I think it was there was a lot more to it. I know he's spoken about it. So, but
I've
it's sad,
heard a lot
it's sad.
about that. Yeah, I think like there were a lot of changes with even the fact that Peter Jackson was going to be involved. I think at one
Yes.
point was.
Oh, yeah, of course, because it was Guillermo del Toro, wasn't it, for the longest time?
Just make one film. The Hobbit is one film.
Yeah, it's
It's
one
not
book
three.
and it's not even that interesting.
No.
Just make one book, one film, easy.
Yeah. I think the saddest thing is that moment of when Ian McKellen is like, he's in front of a green screen and he's not with any other actors and he's just got tears in his eyes and he's like, this isn't why I didn't get into act. Like, this isn't why I got into acting. Because, like, obviously the first films he'd been, like, there with them because of all the sort of forced perspective scenes and everything. And then it's just him on his own. I'm like, don't do it. Don't say it.
Yeah.
It's too sad.
Oh, man.
Oh, bless him.
Well, I saw him, this was either last year or the year before, at Windsor Theatre playing Hamlet. He is, first of all, he's in tremendous shape. He ran
that's
up.
good.
There was a flight of stairs was part of the set. He ran up it. I couldn't run up a flight of stairs this far. And I'm like 4 years younger than Sir Ian. He legged it up there. The only thing is he couldn't project loudly enough for the theatre. So quite often you were kind of straining to hear what he said. But he was fantastic. Just brilliant. Love Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Love him. He's the best.
He was in Bristol recently, but he was playing... Oh, what is it? I've forgotten the name of it. But he was just playing like a woman. It's like a really famous theatre part, and I can't think what it's called. But he had massive knockers. That's all I can remember.
Oh, lovely.
I remember
Gandalf Big
sending you.
Naturals.
Yeah, I sent you the picture of him saying Gandalf Big Naturals, and that forced the name of the play out of my head.
That's just the name of the play now.
Now I have to Google Gandalf Big Tits.
Oh, you're in for a treat. Believe
You're
me.
going to have a great time.
Large boobs. I'll Google that. So Ian McKellen just saw the Gandalf Big Naturals picture for the first time.
What's his response? Oh, Mother Goose. That was it. He was Mother Goose.
Mother Goose. Okay. Interesting. He's 83. Bless him. Well, I think by now he's 84. Yeah, fantastic. What a lad.
Oh my god.
Honestly, that scene in Lord of the Rings when he's like talking to Pippin because Pippin's scared of the war. That scene is like my go-to if I'm feeling a bit panicky. It calms me down because I'm like, Gandalf says it's okay. It must be okay.
That's so sweet. That is sweet. I used to think that music would sort of make me more comfortable because that's the other thing. I do have a lot of anxiety-based dreams, and for a long time I had night terrors, really bad. So they're like when you're awake, but it's like a dream, which is fucking awful.
Yeah.
But I don't have those as much now. I just have regular old panic attacks. So I don't know whether that's an improvement or not. But it's certainly something that you come to sort of cope with.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've spoken about this quite a lot, Bryony. But it's just one of those things where you just sort of come to terms with, and eventually you just learn to deal with it. It's just a nuisance. It's like you've got an itchy foot, or you know when the roof of your mouth is itchy and it won't stop itching. It eventually becomes something like that. We're just like, oh, this again. But I think it's funny. I used to think that music would be a thing that I should listen to sort of switch off my mind and relax. But it never works. I just end up having a tune stuck in my head at bedtime, and it just goes over and over and over, and that's like I can't switch it off. Yeah, it sucks. So I find dreams actually quite refreshing because, first of all, it means I'm asleep. Fantastic. It's always a struggle to get to sleep, so I know I'm asleep. But also, it's just kind of sort of freeing in a way, as long as they're not nightmares. But in general, I just find it quite relaxing to have dreams that I remember, because I spend more time thinking about that than worrying about anything.
Yeah, I've been finding that recently. Like if I've been feeling a little bit anxious or something, I have been going and just having a nap with the sole intent of just having a dream. Like this is like my relaxation. And I've had like, I think Zyla said to me the other day, he's like, you sleep a lot. I was like, I just want to go and have a nice dream. It's just a nice way to relax. It's just
Nothing
like
on
I'm going for a
telly,
little
just
nap.
make some yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Don't need a TV license. I'll just go and have a lie down.
I'll use my imagination, thank you very much. I'm sure there's a bit where Ralph Wiggum in The Simpsons says, like, in my dreams I'm a Viking or something like that. And I thought, that's very sweet, you know, that he can just do that.
Oh.
Yeah. I have a nap every day, and let me tell you, it is great. Because I tend to wake up way too early, because Mrs. F gets up at like 7:30. The kids are banging around getting ready for school. So I don't really get the chance to lie in. I mean, like in the past, I used to sleep until like 11 or midday or whatever, no problemo. But now I'm waking up. You get it drilled into you when you've got to get up for the kids. Your brain is just like, it's light, we better get up, the kids will be up. And you never lose that. It's like trained you to wake up earlier and earlier. And as you get older, you just tend to wake up earlier. But I do find that by about 3 o'clock, it's almost exactly about 3 o'clock, I'm like, oh, nap time for dad. Gotta go have a little lie down and refresh. But it's nice. I mean, and then I can stay up late and I don't feel tired. Otherwise, I'm just yawning all day. I don't want to be one of those people who has to drink coffee all day just to get through the day, because I don't think that's a good idea.
I think
who would do that?
I think there's something so much nicer, though, about a nap than a lie-in. Because I think if I lie in, I'm like, oh, I feel bad, I'm wasting the day. If I get up early and then nap later, I'm like, I have made good use of the day.
Yeah.
I deserve this nap.
I used my time so well, I had time to fit a nap into my otherwise busy schedule. So, yeah.
I always find they're more refreshing too. Like, and I dream more when I'm having a nap. Like, if I'm just in bed, lately I've not been dreaming at all. Like the whole podcast has just been relying on Bryony and her brain. I turn up and I'm like, I've not had a dream for a month.
What a disaster! Oh my god!
Whereas if I go and have a nap, I'm just there's just dreams everywhere. They're just all over the place.
So how long do you nap for?
It depends. Probably like an hour usually.
Wow. Okay.
The problem is, like, I get to like, I guess it's because of like my stream schedule and stuff, but I get to about 8 p.m. and I'm like, right, nap time.
Right.
Whereas usually people are like, right, time for bed. I'm like, no, time for a nap, and I'll get up at like 9 and then I'll be up till 2 a.m. or something.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, that's just how I am really, and it's nice. It kind of just gets me all refreshed and I'm ready to come and like hang out with my friends and play some games. And whereas if I don't nap, I'm just sitting here like falling asleep.
You know what though?
I like a good 20-minute nap.
20 minutes. I go 45. I actually set my alarm for 48 to give me 3 minutes to fall asleep, and then it's a pure 45. Because I think that's meant to 40 to 45 is meant to be just in the wheelhouse. Because if you get into that deep sleep phase, then waking up is really hard. So you sort of want to go into a certain cycle. Someone else, I don't know the details of it, but there's a certain cycle of sleeping where if you get into the deep and then wake up, you'll feel really groggy because your brain's like, whoa, hold on, we were ready to sleep for another 40 minutes there. So too short a nap and you don't feel refreshed, too long and you don't feel refreshed. So there's like a sweet spot you've got to find. But the problem is, because I've been doing this for so long, like generally what it used to be was I would time my nap to be when one of my kids was napping. Because they wake you up at like 4 a.m. or whatever, and they're like wide awake. So then you're tired. Then they will also be tired at about midday. So you'll be like, oh, I'll sleep while they sleep. So you'll sleep there, and they're like napping. And when they wake up, it wakes you up. So you get trained into having a nap because your kid has a nap. Because I was a stay-at-home dad, so I was the one having to do this. I haven't had a real job for 14 years. So when I do get hired for a job where I have to go into work and I'm there for like 8 hours, by 3 o'clock I'm like, lads, it's nap time now. Come on. It's hard.
I remember
so I just snooze a lot.
Because I lived with my niece for the first 2 years of her life. And I remember, so I did like a lot of babysitting.
It's hard work, ain't it?
But like, I loved nap time. That's what got me into nap time. And then when she didn't want nap time anymore, I was like, but I still need nap time.
Yeah, it's
we
heartbreaking.
need to talk about this.
Because there just comes a point where they're like, I don't want to nap anymore. I'm wide awake. And you're like, shit, Not nap time. Come on.
Don't take this from me.
For weeks, I was like, come on, in nap time. Putting her in the crib, and she was like, no, nap. I was like, please, nap time. Yeah, it's hard.
Oh, I went through a phase last year when I had like some bad anxiety. So it became my daily routine where if I felt a bit anxious, I would just get into bed and I would put on Tom and Ben's Warhammer streams.
Sends you right to sleep. Perfect.
And I would they both just have like, it's an interesting enough thing to listen to, but I also don't know enough about it to really understand. So it would just send me off, and it was, they were good naps.
Yeah.
That's good.
Nice.
Soothing voices, and you're not really paying attention to what they're waffling about the lore of some Warhammer guy, but it's also not offensively boring. It's just what it is. Yeah.
Just
Nice
cozy.
background noise.
Yeah.
It's like you got Rythian to do a little audiobook for you, didn't you, Bryony?
I got him to, he did like a relaxation thing for me, because it sounds silly, but a lot of the ones, the sorts of things, I don't know if you've ever used these, but they'd be like, like scrunch your toes and then relax, and then clench your fists and then relax. But a lot of them would then be like, okay, picture this. And because I can't picture things, it would then take me out of it. And I'd be like, well, I can't picture a beach. What do I do? So I got Rythian to record me one where he didn't use the word picture. Because he's got such a lovely voice, and it did really help me. But then there was a bit, because he had like the same script, there was a bit where he would be like, clench your buttocks, and I'd just be like, Rythian. Maybe I can use that for one of my sub alerts now.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
You should do that. That's so funny. Oh man. Does he get saltier and saltier as the tape goes on? By the end, he's just furious about something. That'd be classic Rythian. The Rythian salt comes out.
It's like, clench your fists, clench them harder.
Clench your teeth. You're
Crunch
angry
them.
now.
You're not crunching them.
I said, relax.
I know Mrs. F used some. It was like a bunch of episodes. This guy, I think he makes quite a bit of money. He does like a sponsored bit at the start, and then it's just him telling the most boring story imaginable. And he's like, his voice is absolutely going to send you to sleep. He's just one of those guys.
Yeah.
Got like this Midwestern kind of drawl, and he just goes, so then I went into the garden and had a little path there leading downwards, and there was a water feature gently moving along. And it's just like a complete non-story. And it's like an hour. And she'd put that on, and I'd come to bed a bit later, and I hear this guy warbling on, and I'd be like, I've got to turn this off, because I can't go to sleep if someone's talking. Like, there's no way. So then we got a white noise machine. You just have it there. But Mrs. F prefers the white noise, but I like what they call brown noise, which is more like industrial, sounds like machinery or a heavy engine going like go, 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 like that, but without too much detail. It's more like a darker, browner version of just a hiss, which white noise can often be. So it's a bit deeper, and it feels more like you're sleeping on a plane. You're trying to sleep on a plane, you hear the engine noise, just that sort of brrr.
Yeah,
so,
it's like sleeping in a car as well. It's always the best naps.
So it's like that, and we both need that now. Unfortunately, your brain gets used to it. So when I'm trying to sleep in total silence, my brain's like, where's the engine? We can't hear an engine. So, yeah.
I like putting on thunderstorms when I go to sleep.
Oh yeah?
I gotta say it quietly because she's next to me, but Alexa. Oh no, she heard me. Alexa, stop.
Yes,
Stop
what is it? What is it? How may I assist you?
But she plays a very nice thunderstorm track. It's really nice. It's like a really low rumbling, and it's so relaxing. But,
my issue is the uneven nature of a lot of that white noise stuff, where it's got occasionally punctuated by something, completely takes me out of the sort of hypnotic. I need just one steady noise, and then I focus on that. So when I'm struggling to sleep, I'll literally just focus all my attention on listening to that noise. But if it has detail, my brain starts trying to decode the detail, and then it doesn't help me sleep. So I need like a very steady, rhythmic, no detail sound, and that really knocks me out, like really.
I get that if I ever try and listen to music to get to sleep, I'll listen to the music too much. The only exception is sometimes I'll put on Gregorian chant, because because I do find that very relaxing.
Yeah, you don't know what the hell they're going on about either, so
Yeah.
perfect.
But I
Unless you
listen to
speak,
voices. I do listen
Gregorian.
to audiobooks. Oh, true. I'm not.
So do audiobooks help you? Because I know quite a few people that do use audiobooks.
Yeah.
But aren't you just listening to the story?
It has to be a very particular story read by a very particular voice. So I find
Okay.
Stephen Fry I can fall asleep to.
Well, the ultimate soothing voice right there.
Yes.
Yeah. But then some of them are a bit too... Like, I tried listening to the old Lord of the Rings BBC recordings, the one that started with the, like, bum, 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 bum. And I was like, oh, I remember these from my childhood. I'm going to listen to these. And then it just goes straight into, like, Gollum being tortured. And I was like,
Oh my God.
nope, not listening to this. Not relaxing.
I think I'm a bit of an outlier. I can just fall asleep listening to anything.
That's nice.
I'm like my dad. I can just fall asleep anywhere, in any situation. But thunderstorms and like gentle music really help. They're my favorite things to listen to, I think.
It's like Alex. Yeah. Alex is like asleep, but when his head hits the pillow, and I'll just be lying awake, like, so how was your day? Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, we've been going for an hour.
That's
lots
an
of
hour.
chatting.
We have. I feel like we didn't get to the bottom of any of your dreams. I'm very sorry.
No, we didn't.
Oh,
Sorry.
They're not decipherable, I think.
It's a mystery.
Gibberish. Who knows? Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
Oh, just Google. Just Google. You'll find something on there, I'm sure. Triforce or my stream or anything else I've been up to. But yeah, I do things occasionally.
Always up to stuff.
Always doing something. Very busy today, especially.
Oh yeah. Gonna have to have a nap before you know it.
Good
Nap
idea.
time's
Let's go
come
for a
around.
nap.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, it was great coming. I really enjoyed this chat. I've
Yeah,
never
thank you so
talked about
much.
this stuff before, so it's really, really fun. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and until next time, bye bye for now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.